So the Will family made a lot of contributions to North Dakota economically, socially, and through the organizations that they were involved in. The Will family papers at the North Dakota State Archives are one part of the collection that we have here at the State Historical Society. The museum also has artifacts in their collections, and then the Archaeology and Historic Preservation Department has dendrochronology drawings created by George Francis Will. This is Oscar Will, who came to Dakota Territory in 1881. He started the Oscar H. Will Seed Company. Oscar learned propagation of plants and seed selection while working for his brother in New York. Oscar Will was gifted and purchased the rights of other seeds from local farmers and from Native people, which he then developed into different varieties. Here's an example of one of the family photos that are in the collection. It's Oscar and his wife Belle with their son George and their daughter Mabel. George was born in 1884 in Bismarck, Dakota Territory. He graduated from Bismarck High School and then went on to Harvard University. Here's George all grown up at Harvard University. This is George Francis Will Sr. George Sr. experimented with breeding plants to make better strains, just like his father had. These are the 4 children of George Francis Will Jr. George Will Jr. took over the company after his father, George Will Sr. So people are often surprised when we tell the public that we also collect items of today. We want to document at the State Archive events that are happening now. And one of the best things about George F. Will Sr., in addition to his interest in history, was his eye for documenting his present. So as a teenager, he created this scrapbook documenting the Spanish-American War and the events as they unfolded during his lifetime. So we get an idea of not only what was happening in the conflict at this time, but also how a North Dakotan teenager viewed it. We're always looking for people who are documenting their present so that we have a record for the future.
The museum collection cares for more three-dimensional artifacts. So we care for things from the Will family and also the Oscar Will Seed Company. One thing that the Will Company is most known for is the Great Northern Bean. The Great Northern Bean is still sold today. If you're eating ham and bean soup, you're probably eating a Great Northern Bean. That started with a seed that son of a star, a Hidotz man, gave to Oscar Will. So we have a couple examples of all of them. We have the flower seeds here, a garden tomato seed, Fort Berthold pumpkin seeds, auricura squash seeds. So these are original paintings. They were done by Clell Gannon. Clell Gannon was a North Dakota artist. Clell produced these paintings that were then used as the front and back covers of the catalogs that were shipped out all over the world. Other examples of Oscar Will Seed Company items, we have seed corn bag for large farm corn, and just a premium, something that they would market their company with. This is a thermometer. We have things in the collection that are not just about the seed company, they're also from the family. We have Oscar's son George's Harvard graduation outfit.
George Will was the first to study dendrochronology, the study of tree rings here in North Dakota. His book, Tree Ring Studies in North Dakota, was first published in 1946. He didn't record all the information we wish he had recorded, but he did take a lot of samples, and even today, a lot of modern researchers are still using his samples. So this is some of George Will's notes that he made when he was doing his dendrochronology studies. This is from one of his oak specimens, and this is tree ring data that he was using to compare to data from other places. So some from Montana, Denver, Colorado, South Dakota, and Oklahoma. This is a sample that was collected by George Will, and it's from someplace here in North Dakota. This particular example isn't provenient, so we don't know what site it's from, but we do know this is a sample of bur oak. One thing George Will was really interested in was drought, and that's part of why he went into looking at dendrochronology. So in wet years, rings generally tend to be wider. In drought years, the rings on the tree generally tend to be more narrow. So we have here some kind of feature or scar. There's also something going on here. Features like this could be caused by things like bug infestations or wildfire or flooding. And this is the kind of thing you look for to learn about events that happened while this tree was growing. If you look at a particular species of tree across a certain region, typically you can find patterns in that growth, and that will help you for dating both artifacts, so things like, say, a log from a cabin or an earth lodge, or something that's made out of wood that's large enough that you can count the rings. It also helps tell you things about events, so things like drought.